A friend once told me that there was supposed to be 4 new evolutions for Eevee in Pokemon Gold and Silver. The 2 that are already in the game, Espeon, a Psychic type, and Umbreon, a Dark type. The other 2 were dropped from the game. These would be Poison and Ghost types. I wasn't convinced this was true, so I decided to see for myself by trying a beta version of Pokemon Gold. As expected, the beta ROM was hard to find, because most of the ROMs were either normal, not beta, Japanese, or didn't work. When I finally found a working ROM, I loaded it up to search for the new Eevee evolutions. I wasn't quite sure what to do to get an Eevee to evolve into the Poison or Ghost type, so I just played the game normally and figured I would find out at some point. I eventually ended up beating the Elite Four and all of Kanto. The game was pretty much the same, other than a few different locations, dialogue, etc. Oh, and Dunsparce didn't seem to appear, but I won't complain too much about that. I don't really like Dunsparce. But by the time I had beaten the game, I still hadn't figured out how to evolve my Eevee. I tried leveling up at night, day, in caves, etc. After hours of trying, I finally decided to find the evolutions the easy way, by cheating. I tried to use GameShark codes, but most of them did nothing. So, I decided to ask for help online, and someone on Newgrounds said he could work on a code that should give me all the items. After a few days, he sent me back a code that I put into the GameShark. I loaded the beta ROM, and sure enough, the code gave me every item in the game. I looked through the items, and everything was the same, except for an item called the Toxic Stone. I knew this was the item I was looking for. I used it on my Eevee, and nothing happened. The game simply told me it has no effect. I tried over and over, but nothing. I was pissed. Was this all I got after I went through this damn game? There had to be something that I did wrong. So I thought maybe the NPCs could help me out. Except, I got the typical text from the NPCs. Man, that Team Rocket sure is persistent. I love my Jigglypuff. Have you visited the radio tower in the Kanto region? But one NPC told me something that stood out. Did you know there's a stone that can evolve a Pokemon after it has fainted? This was where I had went wrong. I had to use the Toxic Stone on my Eevee after it fainted. At least, I hoped so. My Eevee didn't take any time to be defeated, especially since it was around level 40 and I was in a level 60 area. After it was defeated, I went into my bag and used the stone on my fainted Eevee. What's this? Eevee is evolving. Yes, finally! Eevee has evolved into Zombreon. This was not what I was expecting. Zombreon looked like a normal Eevee, but was green coloured, and parts of it were missing. Also, its cry was just a lower version of Eevee's. Oh, and once it evolved, it learned an attack called Zombite. But this was all I worked for? A recolored Eevee? Come on! I calmed down a bit and decided to test it out in the tall grass near Newbark town. A wild Sentret appeared, and I threw out Zombreon. I figured it would be pointless to use a move I've used a million times, like Tackle or Flash, so I used Zombite instead. The attack animation was odd. It looked like Bite, but with 2 poison symbols flashing near the teeth. The attack was a one-hit KO, according to the text box. But what was strange now was that the game asked me if I would like to nickname Sentret, and it told me that Sentret was sent to the PC. I didn't use a Pokeball, so why did the game say that I caught the Sentret? I rushed over to the PC and checked for the Sentret. It was not a normal Sentret anymore. It was now green, a poison type, and it had the move Zombite. Wait, I know what's going on. Every time I use the attack Zombite, which I figure means Zombie Bite, the enemy Pokemon will get infected, joining my team. This was pretty obvious, considering Zombreon was basically just Zombie and Eon. I wondered, what would happen if I infected a trainer's Pokemon? I used Fly to go to one of the routes in Kanto that I skipped most of, and ran into a trainer. The battle started, and the opposing trainer threw out a Kadabra, and I immediately chose Zombite. It was a one-hit KO, but rather than throwing out the next Pokemon, the opposing trainer just came out and said, "What did you do to my Pokemon?" The battle was won, and I received the EXP and money. After the battle, the trainer was simply gone. Just gone. In fact, none of the other trainers were there either. This began to creep me out a little bit. I walked around the area to look for another trainer, but found nothing. When I walked into the grass, a wild Kadabra appeared. Although this wasn't a normal Kadabra. It was green and zombie-like the Sentret was. And I didn't even have to fight it. It just lost all of its health and the game told me that I caught it. I began to get a little creeped out. So I began to head back to town when another wild Pokemon appeared. It was a normal-looking Raticate. I didn't want to fight it, so I pressed run, but it didn't work. Zombreon is staring at the foe hungrily, the game told me. Then the Raticate attacked Zombreon with Bite. But after the attack animation played, the game said Zombreon countered the attack with Zombite, and the Zombite animation played, causing the Raticate to lose all of its HP and join my team. I wanted to get out of this area immediately, so I went into my team to use Fly. And I was not expecting what I saw. All of my Pokemon were now green and zombified, and all of them now knew Zombite. I made my Lugia use Fly and take me to Saffron City. When I got there, all the NPCs were there, which helped me to relax a little. I decided to go into the Pokemon Center to check the PC, and when I did, the game let out an ear-splitting beep that made me jump a little. In front of the center's counter was the trainer with the Kadabra that I had defeated earlier. A text box came up. "That's the man that hurt my Kadabra." Then the trainer ran to the corner of the Pokemon Center. A man sitting on one of the seats walked up to me and then said, "Don't worry, I'll stop him." Then I was forced to battle him. He sent out an Arcanine and I sent out Zombreon. I tried to use Tackle and it worked, but after the animation finished, the game said Zombreon used Tackle followed by Zombite. The battle ended, and when the game went back to the Pokemon Center, a greenish sprite of the Arcanine stood next to the man. "What happened to my Arcanine? What are you?" the man said before running out of the Pokemon Center. The Arcanine walked up to me, and then the game told me that Arcanine was sent to the PC box, and then the Arcanine disappeared. This was starting to get kind of creepy. I tried talking to the trainer in the corner, but all he would say was, "Please, no more." I tried talking to the nurse, but all she would say was, "Get out of my Pokemon Center." I checked the PC, and sure enough, I had zombie versions of all of the Pokemon from earlier. When I backed out of the PC, I noticed a new option on the PC screen called Release All. I tried pressing it, but it told me, not enough Zom Pokemon. Damn. I walked out of the center and the speakers of my computer were filled with a loud barrage of high and low pitched beeps, and all of the NPCs outside the center ran towards the exits of the city. I tried to talk to one of them, but they were moving too fast to do anything. When I walked out of the town, there were no trainers around. I figured if I went to a different town, everything would be normal. So I made my Lugia fly to Goldenrod City. When I landed there were no NPCs here either, and the music wasn't playing. I tried walking into a building, but the game told me the door is locked. I tried a few other buildings, but those were locked too. So I went to the Pokemon Center. The door opened up as usual, and I went inside. Nobody was inside of it, but I noticed something new. There was, or well, what appeared to be, a radio on the counter. When I interacted with it, a text box came up. Beware of strange Pokemon. Trainers from the Kanto region have been reporting strange green Pokemon attacking and infecting other Pokemon and trainers. Remain indoors and avoid all contact with strange Pokemon and people. Followed by, I'm so lonely. I figured there was nothing to do down here, so I walked to the second floor. On the second floor there were a bunch of NPCs standing still facing the stairs. Once I got to the top of the stairs, a loud beep played and a text box said, "Get out of here. You aren't normal." A trainer standing in front of the crowd ran up to me and a battle started. The opposing trainer sent out a Ditto, and I sent out Zombreon. I tried using Flash, but instead the game said, Zombreon spat poison at Ditto, and Ditto was defeated. After the battle, the man backed up into the crowd. Suddenly, Zombreon walked out and the game said, Zombreon cannot wait any longer, and Zombreon ran into the crowd, touching every trainer and Pokemon. When it touched Pokemon, they would turn green, but when it touched trainers, the game let out a loud beep and then the trainer would disappear. Once all the trainers were gone and all the Pokemon were infected, a text box said, Jigglypuff, Abra, Ditto and Clefairy were sent to the PC. Then the Pokemon disappeared. I checked my trainer card, because I remembered that the trainer from earlier said that I wasn't normal. Sure enough, my trainer was zombified too. I felt kinda sick. Would Game Freak really do something like this? I shook off the feeling and tried to fly to a different town. but the game told me Lugia is too weak to fly. Great. I went back into the center to get a new flying Pokemon from the PC, but when I looked inside, all of the Pokemon in the PC were infected. I tried taking out my Pidgeotto, but pressing the withdraw button just would play a buzz sound that usually played when you aren't allowed to do something. I couldn't move Pokemon either, so there was only one thing left to do. I saved the game first, and then I pressed the Release All button. The game asked, would you like to release all Zom Pokemon? Yes. All Zom Pokemon have been released. I checked the box, and now all my Pokemon in the PC were gone. I was confused. What is the purpose of an option like this? I walked outside, and I got quite the surprise. Parts of buildings were on fire, windows were boarded up, and NPCs were running from green Pokemon. I couldn't interact with the Pokemon or trainers, so I decided to walk out of town. The area outside of town was similar in a way. A few trees were on fire, and there were grey particles moving in front of the screen, which made it look like the screen was all smoky. Walking into tall grass didn't cause wild Pokemon to appear, but I could talk to the small amounts of NPCs that were standing around. They would say things like, I had to hit my poor Pikachu with a stick, he just wouldn't stop trying to bite me. Who started this? I want this all to end. I want to go home to my family. I eventually walked to Violet City, then to Cherry Grove City, and finally to Newbark Town. This was the only place that was normal, sort of. The trainers that walked around outside of the buildings weren't there anymore. I went into the laboratory to see if that was empty too. It wasn't. Inside was a single professor. Once I took a step forward, an exclamation point appeared above his head, and he walked up to me. I finally finished it, a gene that protects my Pokemon from that poison stuff that has caused all the Pokemon to turn strange. This is where it all began, and this is where it will all end, he said, causing a battle to start. The game then said that Professor Elm would like to battle. He sent out a level 86 for Alligator. I threw out Zombreon. I knew Zombreon was too weak to handle this, so I switched to Lugia. When I tried to use any attack other than Zombite, Lugia would end up using it anyways, and when Lugia did, I would get a message that said, it has no effect on Feraligatr. After this, the opposing Feraligatr used an attack called Cure that was super effective and defeated Lugia right away. My next Pokemon was my Typhlosion, but the battle was almost the same as it went for Lugia. I tried using Flamethrower, but instead Typhlosion used Zombite, and was instantly defeated by Cure. The battle went on like this until I got to Zombreon. I pressed Zombite at this point because I knew it was coming. It didn't work, and Feraligatr used Cure. Zombreon was brought down to 1 HP. The game then said, Zombreon refuses to give up. Zombreon used Struggle. Feraligatr was instantly defeated, and Zombreon was defeated by the recoil. Professor Elm came up and said, no, no, no! And the battle ended. After the battle, Elm took a step back and said, I lost. It's over. It's all over. I want to end this pointless game right now. And ran out of the lab. After a few seconds, a text box said, you hear a loud bang in the distance. I think I know what that meant. I went outside and a text box came up. Why did this have to happen? I didn't understand who said this, since there was nobody around. I thought maybe someone was in my character's house, so I headed there. Inside was my mom. She was sitting on a chair in the house as usual, so I tried interacting with her. She definitely wasn't doing anything usual. It's Mom, she's not moving. This text actually made me feel sad, but I didn't expect the screen to cut to black after the text box closed. The screen faded from black into the opening screen where you get to enter your character's name, but my character just stood there and the text box below said, all of this is my fault. All those poor people. My mom, Eevee. But was it really my fault? My character glared at the screen for a split second before it cut to black. Then, the game went straight to the credits. Nothing was different. All the Pokemon were there as usual. Once the credits were over, the emulator froze. Now, whenever I try to load the beta ROM, the emulator just freezes. I realized that this was only one of the 2 evolutions for Eevee. The ghost one was probably in Pokemon Silver. I can't imagine what would happen with this evolution of Eevee, and I don't want to know. Hello horror family, it's me, Caretaker Casel. Thanks for tuning in to today's story. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was an absolute blast to read, and I had absolute I had a ton of work cut out for me whilst I was making this video, whilst I was editing and everything. It was quite hard to do, but honestly, I'm happy with how it came out. And also, you will notice I'm once again using music from the legendary artist known as Myuu. This song is called Scent of Night. Go check Myuu out. As always, he's absolutely amazing. And the song, it just fits. It just fits. The story Zombreon was written by Ralzor123. I hope I pronounced that right. And I claim no ownership of any kind of this story. It's all credit goes to Ralzor. It's an absolutely amazing story, a great twist on Pokemon creepypastas, and I just love everything about it. It's great, and I had a ton of fun reading it. And I hope you guys had a good time listening to this. So yeah, this has been Caretaker Casel, and I will see you all in the next one. Sweet dreams, horror family.